Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we got some trade rumors for you guys. Well, first off, we're going to talk about Jalen Naylor, and could he be on the trade block before the season, but also before the NFL trade deadline in the middle of the season. We'll discuss that here first, and then also Jamel Dean and Jalen Ramsey, two secondary options that the Vikings could possibly trade for. We'll break it all down on today's show, but before we hop into it, if you guys could help me avoid an awkward meeting with my bosses. Actually, right before we hopped in the studio today, they challenged us Vikings fans to pick up 350 likes on today's show. I think we should be able to knock that out of the park. So if you guys have not already, go down there, hit that thumbs up icon, and help me avoid an awkward meeting with my bosses of us not getting enough likes on our videos. So if you guys could, smash that thumbs up icon. All right, let's dive into the first trade rumor on today's show. Could the Vikings be trading Jalen Naylor? Now, I was just scouring the internet, looking at what I wanted to talk about today, and I saw a couple articles of people discussing that the Vikes could be open to trading Jalen Naylor after what they did in the 2025 NFL Draft. Now, if you guys don't know, they did pick up possibly new wide receiver 3, Tai Felton, in the third round, burner out of Maryland, kind of has a similar style play as a guy like Jalen Naylor, so there is some redundancy there as just like a speed guy, can take the top off the defense. And listen, Tai Felton, he's not a guy where you would plug into like the wide receiver 1 or 2 role and he would immediately be very effective. But I think with just his natural athletic ability, how special he is at that wide receiver spot, I think he could step in and be the wide receiver 3 right away. And I actually think he will be, even if the Vikes decide to keep Naylor. I think this is how the depth chart's going to shake out heading into week 1 of the season. Undisputed, Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1, do-it-all guy. But then you got Jordan Addison at the 2 spot. But then I think the 3 spots following those two, I think Tai Felton should get the nod. Obviously, wait and see how he plays out in training camp, how he does in the preseason. But then you got guys like Jalen Naylor and Rondell Moore following suit behind Felton. But, Naylor's been an interesting guy with the Vikes because he was just a 6th-round pick out of Michigan State. No real big expectations. We kind of thought he was going to be a guy that could step in and, be a decent wide receiver 3. And I think this last year with him, having 6 touchdowns, 414 yards, he gave solid production at that spot. And honestly, I feel like Darnold missed him on a lot of throws during the season. I remember the countless amount of times we were getting up here on our Monday show going over some of like the missed plays the Vikings had. It felt like it was Jalen Naylor over and over again. And just in terms of draft capital for Naylor, I can't imagine the Vikings getting anything more than a 5th-round pick for him. I think this would maybe be one of those like, the Vikings send Jalen Naylor in a 7th and they get a 5th or a 6th-round pick back. That's what I think the trade would probably look like, and which also just makes it seem very unlikely that the Vikings move off from him. And also considering this, don't forget that Jordan Addison's likely going to be suspended for 3 games. The Vikings need all the depth they can get at the wide receiver position because, I love Tai Felton, love Rondell Moore, but I would still like a guy like Jalen Naylor in that unit where it's like, okay, we got Jefferson as a wide receiver 1, and it's kind of like a wide receiver 2 by committee with, Naylor, Felton, and Rondell Moore holding down those positions. But I think if Naylor is going to be dealt, probably a trade deadline move where, maybe he has pretty good production at the wide receiver 2 or 3 spot when Addison's missing. Then Addison comes back, and then maybe another team who, possibly could be looking to pick up another wide receiver. They're calling for that, 5th, 7th-round swap, attach Jalen Naylor there as a potential trade. But listen, I would be in the camp of not trading Naylor before the season, especially just, considering that you're only going to get a 5th, possibly 6th-round pick for him. I'd keep him on this group. He knows the offense. He knows Kevin O'Connell. He's already going to start developing that relationship with J.J. McCarthy. So I would say no to this, but once the season rolls around and maybe we're a week or 2 away from the deadline, maybe I'll change my tune there. But what would you guys do? Would you trade Jalen Naylor? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. Now we'll talk about more trade rumors around Jamel Dean and Jalen Ramsey here in a second. But before we do so, I give a massive shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Factor Meals. Now get started at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50off. And use code VikingsChat50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code VikingsChat50off at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Now make this your best season yet with 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. Get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, and it's perfect for any active lifestyle. Now, we work a lot of long hours here at Chat Sports. Sometimes they don't get out of the office until about 7 o'clock at night, and I don't always feel like cooking a home-cooked meal. That's where Factors came in and has completely changed my life. They power your day with satisfying breakfast, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. And as a guy who loves to snack and have a couple of desserts after a meal, Factor is a great, great option for me. So get started at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code VikingsChat50 off at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. All right, let's start off talking here about Jamel Dean. Now, I'm going to be honest. I haven't heard any reports or anybody connecting the Vikings to Jamel Dean, but I was just going over, looking at some of the latest NFL trade rumors, and it's actually a San Francisco 49ers website that talked about the Buccaneers possibly being open to trading Jamel Dean after what they did in the NFL draft. This is what they had to say. Jamel Dean was one of the higher graded corners in the NFL a season ago. According to PFF, Dean ranked as the league's number 26 corner with a defensive grade of 75.75 and a coverage grade of 75.4. But here's the kicker. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted a pair of cornerbacks in the draft in Benjamin Morrison, love that pick by the way, and Jacob Parrish, also love that pick, that could open the door to a potential trade. And, with the Vikings, we like what they have in the secondary right now. Do we love it? Not necessarily, since there are some big question marks like, hey, Isaiah Rodgers, are you ready to step into, playing, possibly 700, 1,000 snaps during the season compared to about the 300, 500 he was previously getting? Then also Mekhi Blackman coming off a torn ACL, former third-round pick, looked great in his rookie year, missed his whole sophomore campaign with that injury. Is he ready to step in? So maybe the Vikings could be looking at Jamel Dean as a guy that could make more of an immediate impact instead of having to bank on those two other guys. But I still think the Vikes have a lot of faith in Blackman and Rodgers to get it done. But the one thing I love about Jamel Dean in terms of a specific fit with the Vikings, you go look at where he's his snap alignment over the last couple of years. It's all on the outside. He rarely plays in the nickel. And if you go look at Byron Murphy Jr., he thrives in the slot. He thrives playing that nickel cornerback position. So trading for Jamel Dean would give the Vikings a better option at the outside corner. Now, yeah, I do think Mekhi Blackman, he could develop into that. Isaiah Rodgers, he could develop into that. But we also got reports from Alec Lewis, Ben Gesseling, saying that the Vikings could possibly not be done attacking the cornerback trade market. So we're all thinking about Jalen Ramsey. We'll talk about that here in a second. But what if it's a guy we haven't been talking about, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneer corner, Jamel Dean? But speak about the Vikings secondary. How are you viewing it right now? I want you guys to bring out those red pens for me and grade it. A, B, C, D, or F. The cornerback position and the safety position. How are you feeling about it? Give me an A, B, C, D, or F down below in the comments section. Talent-wise, I give it a B-, but also since the Brian Flores bump, probably give it a B. But you guys let me know. Grade the Vikings secondary in the comments section. Now, we do have a Jalen Ramsey trade update here because, right before the draft, we got a report that, hey, the Dolphins, Jalen Ramsey, they're going to try to agree on a deal to get him out of Miami before the start of the season. Nothing came to fruition before or during the draft, and people are kind of asking, what's the holdup here? Well, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN had this to say, saying Miami has been calling around on Ramsey trying to work a potential trade. The sticking point here is that $24 million in guarantees. My sense, after asking around, is Miami has not been overly eager to cover some of that bill, which sort of makes a trade hard to pull off right now. And 100%, not a lot of teams have $24 million to open up on their books heading into the next season. But in terms of a Jalen Ramsey trade, like if the Vikings were in a different spot where I didn't feel like they were a player away from being contenders, or I didn't feel like they, seemed to make one more move to get them truly in that Super Bowl bubble, which is why I think Ramsey is a luxury trade option for the Vikings. But also, the Vikings are in a position to pull it off. Like, that's where, like, if you would add Jalen Ramsey to the secondary, you're looking at this group a whole lot different. Now, how many years does Ramsey have playing at a high level? Hopefully, at least one more if you're trading for him, but hopefully two. But if you would have Byron Murphy in that slot, Jalen Ramsey on the outside, Blackman working in, Isaiah Rodgers working in, and then hopefully you get anything out of Jeff Okudah. Like, you're looking at this group and you're saying, like, just like I asked you earlier, grade the secondary. I'm probably grading this as an A- heading into the season. But Ramsey, he's still been very productive over the last 4 years. Had to miss time back in 2023 due to injury, but nothing serious. Still bounced back this past season. Played in all 17 games. Looked very good in those moments. Also graded out pretty damn well according to PFF. And still playing 17 games, 2021, played in all 16 games there. But I guess the question you got to ask yourself here with Ramsey is, like, especially if you are giving up a third-round pick, like, does he move the needle? Is this a guy where it's like, okay, let's just say Madden style, where you give the Vikings defense a 89, 90 overall? Does this bring him up to a 92, 93? I really don't know if Ramsey moves that needle that much. Now, yes, would it make this defense a little better? There's no denying that. Just adding more talent into the secondary will definitely help the case. But does he move the needle enough to, take on the $24 million in guaranteed money, also give up possibly a future draft pick? I have no idea. I don't know the answer to that. The only way we would get that answer is if we actually do pull off the trade and see what happens next season. But just in general about the Vikings making deals here, I think they're going to hold off until during the season. And I don't think they're in the camp where, especially after only having 5 or 4 picks, turn them into 5 this past season, I don't think they're in love with giving up 2026 draft capital to go trade for a player before the season starts. Yes, you got the comp pick situation where they are getting a 3rd, they are getting a 5th, but do you really want to give up, some of that draft capital to go get a guy where still a big question mark around these guys? So I think this could be a trade deadline move for the Minnesota Vikings where it's like, hey, we start off the season, 5-1. We're like, all right, this is a year. We got to, kind of get that extra needle mover on this team. Maybe that's when they go try to get a Jamel Dean, a Jalen Ramsey type of trade. And also, you never know. There could be some good teams that end up being bad, and they could be sellers at the deadline. It's truly just a ever-moving situation here in the NFL. So maybe it's not Jalen Ramsey. Maybe it's not Jamel Dean. But you guys let me know. Name a player the Vikings should trade for. You guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Also, hit that subscribe button. See you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.